you and I are both carnivores, so meaning we don't eat plants, right? So I get hit with this all the time, and I'm sure you do too, when people say, "Where do you get your vitamin C?" And my response is always three things. First one is that glucose increases your need for vitamin C. So if you're on a species appropriate diet, which would consist of no carbohydrates whatsoever, then that would, and it's primarily fatty meat from ruminant animals, then you don't need to go out of your way to find vitamin C. That would be point number one. Point number two would be that we all know that there really is a sufficient amount of vitamin C to be found in red meat, but it's not tested because no pharmaceutical or sugar industry is going to fund any study to prove that. Don't we know that? Rich's content that he's published out on the Lancet Commission, it's on his channel. He talks all about how they misrepresent scientific literature. We've been talking about that earlier this week on Carnivore Coaches Corner too. And then point number three, name me one long-term carnivore advocate who's actually gotten scurvy. Everybody says that you're going to get scurvy if you don't have vitamin C. We all know people that have been on the carnivore diet for 10 or 15 plus years and don't have scurvy. So I'm just curious as to what you say when you hear what your response is when someone says, "Hey, aren't you worried about a vitamin C deficiency? You're not drinking orange juice, bro."
Yeah, so I have a similar response to you. Like you said, without glucose, without carbohydrates, our need for vitamin C is much less. We know that glucose competes with vitamin C, the same receptors, so you don't absorb as much when you've got glucose in your diet. Also, when we're on a ketogenic diet, which carnivore diet will be, ketones are antioxidants as well. So we have less need for vitamin C in general, as well as the fact that we absorb more of what we get. We need less in general, which that applies to a lot of stuff. The RDA really don't apply to vitamins and nutrients when it comes to the carnivore diet. It's very different to us. They're based on a poor, unhealthy population that eat a high carb diet. So we don't really need to worry about that. And like you said, number two, meat, contains vitamin C. But as you said, they don't bother testing it. They just say, "Oh, it's so small that we'll put it as zero," even though it's there and we know it's there. And in terms of scurvy, back in the day of when people actually got scurvy and sailors, the way they actually cured it was feeding them fresh meat. So the reason they got it was because they were eating dried meat, which the vitamin C has then gone from. But fresh meat cured them. And as you said, no carnivores get scurvy at all, which shows that it doesn't cause it. And also, a healthy gut, actually, we have some bacteria in our gut that will produce vitamin C for us as well. In a healthy gut. In an unhealthy gut, probably not. There's animals that produce vitamin C themselves, and humans appear to have lost that ability, but we do have some bacteria that produces it for us in our gut. So if you take into account the fact that on a strict carnivore diet, we have a very low need for vitamin C, we're already getting vitamin C from meat, we're absorbing all of the vitamin C we get, and because we've got a healthy gut, there's vitamin C being made in our gut, there's absolutely no chance that we're going to be low in vitamin C at all.
Right, right. I'm looking. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking for a study on my phone to add to what you were saying. But yeah, here we go. Foods associated with shorter telomeres include processed meat, though not unprocessed meat like mince and ribeyes. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I sent a newsletter out a couple weeks ago on eating beef to live longer, because Rich and I have been talking, and Rich talks all the time about how eating red meat is associated with a longer lifespan. Like you look at the population of Hong Kong. They're one of the longest. There's studies that show that they're one of they have like the longest lifespan of anybody on Earth, right? Or one of the longest lifespans. And their diet is primarily red meat and white rice, which is actually relatively lower in carbs, in terms of weight, and lower in lectins, and lower in a lot of what we try to avoid in plants. And so that being factored in, they also don't eat like a whole lot of vegetables, or near as many like salads, and near as much fiber as people from the UK or people here do. But I had a hard time finding. I looked everywhere, and I had a hard time finding anything that shows that red meat makes you live longer, right? But what I did find was lots of evidence that shows that foods associated with shorter telomeres, which would mean a shorter lifespan, would be things like processed meat, but not unprocessed meat, alcohol and processed sugar. And so it's not meat that's causing damage to your body and which causes you to age. Because telomeres on the end of your chromosomes, that's what's correlated with your longevity, right? The longer they are, the younger you are. The shorter you are, the more damaged they are by chronic consumption of sugar, glycation, and highly processed foods. These damage your telomeres and it makes you age faster, right? So I just found it interesting that when you're talking about these populations that are consuming processed meat versus fresh meat, how different that affects their health. And I think this might back that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know the exact study. I know Rich would have it because I know he talks about it a bit, but beef is the only food that's been shown to lengthen telomeres
I wouldn't
as
be
well,
surprised. Okay.
which would be associated with longevity, and that is the only food
Wow.
in the world that's been shown to do that.
So red meat makes you live longer. There you go, everybody.
Yeah.
And who's gonna and your doctor that's trying to sell you statin drugs isn't gonna tell you that either, by the way.
Absolutely not.
Okay.